All right, Baltimore City Council Ways and Means Committee. We are back in session for Council Bill 22-0235, Ordinance of Estimates for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2023. I'm Eric Costello, Councilman for the 11th District, Chair of the committee. I'm joined to my immediate left by Councilman Robert Stokes, 12th District, member of the committee. To my immediate right is Marguerite Curran. On behalf of Council President Nick Mosby is Matt Stegman. On behalf of Mayor Brandon Scott is Nina Themlis. We have 3 agencies for this time slot, which starts at 9 and goes through 11. The Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, I believe that'll be Deputy Mayor Faith Leach, the Family League of Baltimore, Damon Millard, and the Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement, Dr. Bunley. So what we're gonna do, how many slides do we have collectively?
So I think we just have slides for the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success.
Okay.
But there may be opening testimony from both the Family League and African American Male Engagement.
Okay. No slides.
We have 2 slides.
2 slides. Okay, yours are bundled in. Okay. What we're gonna do, I'm gonna ask Family League to do their slides first, and then I think we'll have you do your slides. I had an order, but we're just gonna call an audible, and I think, Councilman, if that's all right with you, we'll do Family League slides first, then we'll do the Mayor's Office slides, and then we'll just get into questions. What I would add, how many slides do you have, Deputy Mayor?
About 6.
About 6, okay. Damon, I'm gonna ask you to keep your presentation to under 10 minutes. Deputy Mayor, I'm gonna ask you to keep yours to about 15 minutes. I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to ask each of you, before you get started, to introduce any staff that you have with you. Just say first and last name and their position title. When you are speaking, please speak clearly into the microphone. You should be about 1 hand length away. Inevitably, during this hearing, one of you is going to screw up and not do that. I'm going to politely interrupt you. It's going to happen a second and third time. It has happened with every single agency so far, and it will inevitably happen with every other agency for the rest of the week. So please don't let that faze you. But the reason for that is the folks that are watching from home, so that they can hear what you're saying, and so that everything is recorded appropriately. Councilman, anything else before we get started? I think we're good to go. All right, Damon, take it away.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chair. And Councilman Stokes, again, Damon Millard, President and CEO of Family League of Baltimore. I'm pleased to have with me members of my team, our Chief Program Officer, Kalila Slater-Harrington, our Chief Operating Officer.
One thing, if you folks could please raise your hand when these folks identify you.
No, and they're typically not shy, at least around me. Tywana Taylor, our Chief Operating Officer. Jonathan Carter, our Senior Director for Grant Compliance and Strategic Operations. Keontae Kells, our Legislative Liaison. And Marissa Burke-Smith, our Communications Director. So Family League is obviously pleased to be a part of the local management board network throughout the state of Maryland, and obviously working in close partnership with the Mayor's Office and City Council. In the last fiscal year of 2021, we've allocated over $22.8 million to 94 partners within the city of Baltimore. And one of the key mechanisms of this is basically being able to braid federal, state, as well as local and private and philanthropic dollars to support projects and programs supporting children and youth. Today, we're here specifically to discuss service number 446, in which there are 3 specific activities. One includes community schools and out-of-school time programming. Next is expanded youth programming, which is more so focused in terms of community-based out-of-school time. And then the third are basically directed supports, in which we basically serve as a pass-through for 2 particular organizations for the last several years. but specifically as it relates to 446 is for the community school and out-of-school time program, in which we work in close connection with community-based partners that we call lead agencies, and it's over 50 of those who basically do the direct support, working in tandem with schools. Councilman and Chair Costello, I know this, he knows and familiar with the strategy very well. I know of particular schools within his district, as well as Councilman Stokes. Within these schools, not only do we provide the support for the community school coordinator, and they leverage the support for over 24,935 students, but not just for the students, but for their family members as well. In a lot of cases, we're able to leverage our relationship with the State Department of Human Resources that also are able to make referrals in terms of case management support. We've heard it all in terms of issues as it relates to housing instability, or also issues as it relates to I would say in terms of utility cutoffs. So these referrals are made by way of our connection, obviously with the school partnership, and then also the state agencies who we actually have a contractual agreement and engagement with. One of the key performance measures specifically as it relates to the community school engagement strategy is looking at the issues as it relates to average daily attendance. And so really, obviously, we've had some significant challenges when it came to the global pandemic. That was primarily within fiscal year 20. We were looking at making, obviously, hitting our target in terms of the respective percentage for that respective year, but then in the fourth quarter is obviously when schools had closed in the March of 2020, in which impacted the attendance. The work had to shift virtual, and that was a struggle, but I want to thank the mayor's office in terms of its support, in terms of being able to navigate the scope and providing the professional development as well as the technical assistance for those community-based partners. They really shifted their focus and service more so in terms of food distribution, delivery of learning packets, as well as technology and iPads for students and their family members as well. As we're moving now, obviously, in terms of coming out of the pandemic, we're starting to see the resurgence in terms of attendance this year. We're at the last quarter, I think have just fell short of 3% in this particular quarter, but we are quite positive in terms of hopefully hitting that mark for the year-end reporting for quarter 4. I know one of the things I had a chance to speak with Councilman Stokes about just before the hearing, and I noticed in the presentation that was given by Baltimore City Recreation and Parks, just for a point of clarification, Family League allocated not $53,000 to the Department of Recreation and Parks, but $1 million that service 43 recreation center sites throughout the city. And so also with that included technical assistance and professional development for recreation center staff. At the end of fiscal year 21, 95 recreation center staff members were trained in the area of advancing youth development, which is an evidence-based program model for staff. So I just wanted to state that for a point of clarification from the hearing from last week. Thank you for your time, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for staying under budget for your allotted time. Appreciate that. We're going to call another audible. We're going to go right into questions for Damon and his team, and then we'll go over to the deputy mayor and her team. Councilman Stokes.
First of all, Damon, thank you for clarifying, because $54,000, $1 million is a big difference. So I will be calling Director Moore, because we always talk about how we help our young people when we talk about rec centers and giving them opportunities for programming and some just going different kind of trips, taking them out of a certain environment. So I'm glad to hear that. But I don't have a lot of questions for you. I just think that what you're doing is a wonderful job here in Baltimore City, especially school coordinators. That's so important that they get trained and develop those partnerships in the community. So I'm glad to hear that, but I just wanted to share my feelings that y'all doing a good job on your outreach, partnering with other agencies, other communities. So I don't have a lot of questions, but a lot of accolades for you.
Thank you. First, I want to take a moment to thank my colleague, Councilman Stokes, for his leadership this week, and especially pressing that issue with Director Moore. Councilman Stokes was integral in helping to draft the letter that we sent over to Rec and Parks and furthering that line of questioning and really kind of planting the flag for demonstrating to the administration the level of importance associated with those field trips and what that experience brings to our young people. So I want to thank you, Councilman Stokes, for that. And Damon, I don't have any questions. Very familiar with your work and deeply appreciative for the impact that you all are making every single day in our schools, supporting our community school programs. So just want to say thank you. Really appreciate it. Deputy Mayor, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Good morning, Chair Costello, Council Member Stokes, and esteemed members of the City Council. I want to start by thanking you all for the opportunity to discuss the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success FY2023 budget. I'm joined by Angela Whitaker, who is the Director of the Baltimore City Community Action Partnership. So my name is Faith Leach, and I serve in the dual capacity as both Deputy Mayor of Equity, Health, and Human Services, as well as Interim Executive Director of the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success. I want to share a few brief opening remarks, and then I'll move into the formal budget presentation. On November 1st, 2021, I took the helm as Interim Executive Director of the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success, or MOCFS. For the past 7 months, I have witnessed firsthand a team of dedicated public servants working tirelessly, relentlessly, doggedly even, with one sole mission in mind: to radically improve the lives of Baltimore's children and families. Every day, my team intervenes at what feels like the lowest point for many families, and with care, they help families navigate through difficult times into a brighter tomorrow. This work is not easy, but it is necessary, and for many of us, it is purpose-driven. Just this past Friday, my team received an email from a high school senior. She shared her prom picture with us and a note that said she is heading off to Clark Atlanta University. She said she couldn't have made it without the rental and utility assistance we provided her family. I want to take a moment of privilege, and I want to tell her how proud I am, know how proud we all are of her, and to let her know her city has her back. This is the work of MOCFS. Now I will turn to my formal budget presentation and discuss the FY23 recommended budget for the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success. As you all are aware, MOCFS was created in 2020 and absorbed the Baltimore City Community Action Partnership and its 5 community-based CAP centers: Baltimore City Head Start, the Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement, and oversight and staffing of the Baltimore City Youth Commission. I'll start with sharing accomplishments and major budget changes for Service 109, MOCFS administration. During FY22, the MOCFS administration team continued to lead and manage the Baltimore Children's Cabinet and support the Trauma-Informed Care Task Force. We launched a Boys and Young Men of Color Cabinet and will be releasing an action plan later this month to support BYMOC in Baltimore. We also joined a coalition of 75 mayors from across the country and launched a first-of-its-kind guaranteed income pilot for young parents. We coordinated the city summer supports for young people through the Be More Summer Information Hub. We also demonstrated our ability to activate and engage youth and advance policy, including leading the passage of the Baltimore Youth Data Hub legislation at the state. We have deepened our community and partner relationships, and we continue to work to change the narrative around Baltimore's young people. Our FY23 recommended budget transfers the Office of African American Male Engagement, including 5 general fund positions, to Service 125, Executive Direction and Control Mayoralty. Now for Service 605, Baltimore City Head Start. Baltimore City Head Start leads and is the largest member of a collaborative of 5 Head Start program operators in the city that provide early childhood and family development services for 759 low-income city children between the ages of 3 and 5. Head Start services are federally funded through a 5-year non-competitive grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and is free for families who meet the age and income requirements. During FY2022, Baltimore City Head Start provided uninterrupted learning and support during the pandemic. They also implemented strategies to become trauma-aware, informed, and responsive. They successfully converted 1 classroom to full-day, year-round care with several more planned in the future. They also expanded community-based partnerships and worked to build out a birth to 5 pipeline connecting early Head Start services to Head Start services within a traditional child care setting. The Head Start FY23 recommended budget reflects a decrease in the general fund allocation for contractual services based on prior year spending patterns and maintains current level of services. The Baltimore City Community Action Partnership and its 5 community-based CAP centers are core to fulfilling the MOCFS charge to improve the lives of Baltimore's children and families by connecting households in need to resources that support their move toward financial stability. Through our CAP centers, we provide residents with assistance with energy and water bills, food insecurity, financial education and empowerment, case management, and eviction prevention supports. CAP Center staff provide both direct support to individuals and referrals to other government and nonprofit providers to help residents address areas of mental health, substance use, housing, and employment. I want to share just a few of the CAP Center accomplishments in FY22. Eviction Prevention, the Baltimore City Community Action Partnership and its 5 CAP centers continue to lead city's efforts to support household housing stability. BCAP continued to work with community partners to implement programming that offered back rent assistance, relocation services, and security deposit assistance. To date, BCAP has dispersed $46 million in rental assistance, helping approximately 7,653 unique households obtain or maintain stable housing. During the same time period, BCAP has worked with the district court to operate the pandemic rent court program, providing on-site assistance at courts to tenants who are facing imminent eviction to ensure they are able to remain housed. BCAP has worked as a part of a multi-agency team to operationalize Water for All, the city's new water billing discount program. BCAP is responsible for processing Water for All applications, and we recently expanded capacity to include a program manager along with direct service delivery staff to ensure timely processing of applications. In FY2022, BCAP also launched a partnership with the Maryland Food Bank to host food pantries in 2 CAP centers. Staff are currently receiving training with a plan to go live this summer of 2022. BCAP's budget maintains current funding levels. I want to close by thanking my entire team at the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success for their continued hard work and dedication to Baltimore's children and families. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Deputy Mayor, thank you so much. We've been joined by Councilwoman Odette Ramos, 14th District. Also been joined by City Administrator Chris Shorter. And let me, Dr. Bunley, do you have anything, you don't have any slides, but is there anything you want to add just so we can get into questions from the entire council just about the work of your office? Or if you could give a brief description at your discretion, a couple minutes, just explaining the work that you do. I know we're all familiar with it, but for the benefit of those watching at home.
Good morning, Chairman Costello, Vice Chair Stokes, and members of the board. Thank you all very much. Basically, I just want to share that we are in the process, though we have been subsumed under the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success in the past 2 years. We've been working diligently, and the transition to now to the Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement seems to be seamless. Deputy Mayor has basically supported the work, and we're just looking forward to doing the work of the Mayor's Office of an African American Male Engagement, where we have two foci, one being Mission 186 to deal with the approximately 186,000 boys and young men of color throughout Baltimore City, and then our Connect to Success program, where we are working to implement the mayor's plan for boys and young men of color through his cabinet. And so I'm excited about the work. We have a lot of work to do, and the Connect to Success program is where the work for disconnected youth that squeegee, where I'm concerned many of the citizens of Baltimore are concerned about, and we're diligently working to ensure that that process is ameliorated out there in the streets as the constituents experience our young people in Baltimore City.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We will jump into questions now. So just to recap, Family League has done their presentation. Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success has done their presentation. Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement has supplemented the MOCFS presentation. Deputy Mayor Leach, there's currently a vacancy for I think it's the Executive Director position of Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success. I know that you've been filling in, but you also have other great responsibilities within the administration overseeing other agencies. Can you talk to us about what the status is of filling that vacancy, please?
Yep, absolutely. So over the coming weeks, the mayor looks forward to announcing his pick for the director of the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success. We're excited about the opportunity to announce who the new director will be. In my stead as deputy mayor, given that I've run the agency for the past 7 years, I plan to continue to be pretty hands-on with the agency, especially our CAP centers.
Let me pause you. I think there was a typo. You said last 7 years?
Oh, excuse me, 7 months. Good catch, good catch. But I hope to be pretty hands-on with the agency, especially as we look to reimagine our CAP centers, but there will be new leadership in the coming weeks.
Excellent. And can you confirm that the mayor has made a selection as to who the next head will be?
I can confirm there'll be an announcement in the few coming weeks.
Okay. Can we say, I don't want to get anything into, I don't want to go too far into pre-decisional personnel decisions. When you say next few, can you define what next few weeks means?
The next 30 to 45 days.
Thank you. That is excellent. Appreciate it. I want to jump over to, I have a feeling we're going to be talking at length about CAP centers and things of that nature, something that's very important to the council. I want to jump into the rent reimbursement that is occurring as a result of COVID. Is that happening through DHCD or is that happening through your office? Is it a combination? Can you walk me through how that's happening?
Yep. So through our Baltimore Community Action Partnership Centers, we are running the Eviction Prevention program for the city. And so we've been allocated about $98 million through various funding sources. So some states funding sources, multiple federal funding sources, as well as local funding sources as well. So we have partnered closely with DHCD on those local funding sources. To date, as I mentioned in my presentation, we've administered $46 million of that total $98 million that we've been allocated through various funding sources. We work closely with the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services, the Department of Housing and Community Development, as well as the United Way, who is also managing a portion of the Eviction Prevention program in support and in partnership, of course, with the agency.
Thank you. And so that leaves a remaining balance of approximately $52 million.
Yes, sir.
And just to confirm, so the lead agency for handling rent reimbursement is MOCFS, correct?
Yes, we handle rental assistance.
Who is the appropriate point of contact for the council on constituent requests? I've been coming to you, and it's probably not appropriate for me to have to email a deputy mayor every time. So is there someone specific?
So yes, Angela Whitaker, who is here with me today, she is the director of the Baltimore City Community Action Partnership. I'm also happy to field those requests as well. I manage multiple of them because we want to make sure that all of our residents get the assistance that they need. So whether that comes to me or Angela or a member of our staff, we want to do our due diligence to move money as fast as possible.
I will follow your lead, but please advise if it would be appropriate moving forward for me to email those to Ms. Whitaker and copy you.
Yep, that would work.
Outstanding, thank you. We've been joined by Council Vice President Sharon Green Middleton. That's the balance of my 2 questions. I'll be back for some more. Vice Chair Stokes.
Yeah, Dr. Bunley, you just promoted me as the Vice Chair of Budget. I appreciate it. I actually sit on the board, and I can see hands-on. Ms. Whitaker, you do a great job of running that. The 5 CAP centers, the Mayor's Office of Family and Children's Success is a great program, and I don't have nothing but praise because I actually see the work that they do. I send a lot of constituents to them, and they jump right on it. Ms. Jamie Johnson, who's been wonderful, your whole staff. But it just reminds me of back then when I worked for Kirk Smith, called the Mayor Station Program. And those 5 CAP centers remind me of little city halls, so people don't always have to come here. You know, a lot of times people get frustrated because they stay in here too long, they might get a parking ticket. It's like going to NVA. Nobody want to go, but they have to. But those CAP centers do a wonderful job, the whole staff. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there because it's hard. And everybody I've sent to them, the constituents actually have called back or emailed back, and they happy. And I say that because when you don't have nowhere to lay your head and your belly is hungry, what's going on in the city now, if you can't be permanently laying your head and you cannot eat, that is a problem. The CAP centers, the Mayor's Office of Family Success, has delivered that to people in this city that's struggling. So I just had to put that out there and recognize your hard work that y'all do in the city. And a lot of times you don't always get the accolades. People don't send you thank you. They just find bad things to say. But y'all doing a yeoman's job, but I wanted to make sure I put it on record also. I know we haven't went to Mr. Buntley, but I'm gonna just go ahead and say your crew and Tracy, y'all doing a great job with our black men here in the city. People don't see it. I see it every day. I know how hard y'all work in terms of providing that underlying services that them young men and women need in this city. We always hear people say, give them a job, but it's not always about giving them a job. It's getting them ready. You know, someone had to be retrained, and y'all provide that hand-on services to those young men and women here in Baltimore City. And I know, Dr. Bunley, you got some success stories to tell too. So whenever you get a chance, you need to share that also with the public, not particularly with this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Sorry to be a little late. Also, want to send my kudos. I think, whenever I'm emailing you, Deputy Mayor and Ms. Whitaker, I get an email directly back, and I really appreciate you escalating the issues that have come before us, particularly around the rental assistance. So thank you very much for that. I have several questions. On the rental assistance piece, we still have an obstacle of some landlords not accepting directly from you, and we need to go around them and have give the money to the tenants to be able to pay. I don't know why landlords are doing this. I mean, it's money. So can you tell us a little bit more about what's happening there? I know you've made some exceptions to the rule, and I appreciate it. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, absolutely. So this has been a challenge that we've faced since we've been operating our program. I think one of the issues that landlords raise to us is they have to sign an agreement, right? So we are encouraging landlords to sign an agreement where they are not allowed to evict tenants once they receive funds from the city. And so some landlords are declining that assistance. And so what we've done is we've actually stood up a Directive tenant payment program. And to date, we've already supported 105 individuals directly, where we are paying them the money in person or we're sending the money directly to them so that they can then pay their landlord to avoid eviction. We have about an additional, on top top of that 105, we have an additional 39 tenants that we're currently working with to get them payments directly. We usually can move pretty quickly with those direct-to-tenant payments. If there's an impending or imminent eviction, we're able to usually get a check and funds into a resident's hand within 5 to 7 business days. So it has really been an impactful program.
That's great. And I'm very sad to have learned that the governor vetoed a bill to stop evictions if there is payments pending. This was a big issue for those of us participating in MACO, as you remember, Vice President. And so I'm glad that you've tried to figure out how to expedite these payments because I think the governor's decision was completely irresponsible. But I'm glad that you're trying to figure it out. And then my second question is around the CAP centers.
Councilwoman, can you give 1 second to Councilman Stokes? He has just an add-on of clarification to your previous comment.
Deputy Mayor, can you talk about the relationship you have with the sheriff office to avoid those evictions, even though, real quick, the governor did veto that? Yeah. But they do some great job. I have a good relationship with the sheriff office, so we don't see that happen.
Deputy Mayor, 1 second. Thank you. I want to acknowledge Councilwoman Danny McCray, 2nd District member of the committee. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, absolutely. So in addition to the direct-to-tenant payment program, we do also partner with the sheriff's office where they send us their list at least 7 days in advance prior to them going to evict a tenant from their home. And so we partner with Civic Works and other community-based organizations to actually go out to those addresses that are on the list provided by the sheriff's office. In addition, we do have staff that are located within the court system. So we have a pandemic rent court program as well. And we've been able to avert over 300 evictions by having staff in the court who are able to intervene before those evictions are able to move forward.
Thank you. That's thanks for that follow-up, Councilman. And that's a big deal, avoiding 300 evictions right in court. And I know that even though we're starting to come out of the pandemic, there's still a lot of people that need assistance. So thanks for being flexible and making all that happen. The next question that I had was around the CAP centers. I understand that the CAP centers are open now for appointments. When are the CAP centers going to be open for walk-ins?
So we're going to monitor the public health situation in the city and then make a decision about opening up full capacity. So right now we are offering about 84 appointments weekly for in-person services. And then we're also having an additional 70 appointments that are available if individuals need support with making copies, dropping off documents, or the like. So we're hopeful that, given COVID numbers, we'll be able to open up fully to the public and accept walk-ins. But right now, we think it's best to operate through appointments only.
But the rest of the city's front-facing organizations like finance and the cashier are fully open for walk-ins. What's the difference?
Yes. So I think the difference for us is we will be inundated, like many city agencies, with a large number of people that are coming into our buildings. And so for the health and safety of our staff, as a part of union negotiations, we have made a decision to open up to just by appointments only. We will be able to expand the number of appointments once we kind of monitor how managing the number of appointments that we have available now are going. We'll add additional appointments as well. We also are providing assistance via email and also our phone lines as well. So we are there available to support any city residents that needs assistance.
Yeah, I think people have gotten used to it, but there are people who still need that in-person.
Definitely.
And have not had luck with the Dropbox, though. So how often is the Dropbox? Each Dropbox, and I guess it's only at $39.39, right? That there's the Dropbox.
Yes, we have one main Dropbox.
Right. How often is that emptied in the applications process?
We look to empty it daily or pretty regularly, and then the applications are then processed. So we can look at, especially given the number of appointments, if there's an ability for us to add additional Dropboxes so that we can support residents in all parts of the city, just as an added measure to support residents that are in need.
Yeah, and again, I do think that we need to try to get open as soon as possible for walk-ins. There are still a lot of people who still haven't applied for Water for All and some of the other programs because they're they're not going to, it's not the same. So
Understood.
obviously, I want to make sure that people's health are, taken into consideration.
Of course.
I have more questions, but I'll yield to the next round. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Madam Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning.
Good morning.
And I also want to acknowledge that I serve on the CAP Center board. So I know that they have been doing extensive training, certification, proud to say that and very comfortable with them handling the Security Deposit Relief Act bill. They, as we know, that first week it was like 600 people or so that applied. Do you have a count of numbers on that particular?
Yes, for the security deposit assistance, we provided 216 residents with assistance with the security deposit.
Okay. Are there any problems with denials or people understanding, how the process? Have you encountered?
So we actually bundle the security deposit program along with all of our kind of rental assistance relocation services. So that's also something that we offered. We don't just offer rental assistance. In some cases, we do offer relocation, and as a part of the relocation package, we will offer security deposit assistance as well as 3 months rent forward. And so it's a part of a larger program that we're offering. But then there are also those residents who come to us, and that is all they need is security deposit assistance. And we're able to support them with that. I do think that there was a bit of a learning curve and some education on the front end about qualifications, like with all of our programs. But to date, I think we've stood up a successful security deposit program.
Thank you. And and also a comment, Councilwoman Ramos had mentioned about the locations, and know we have 5 locations. And I know we have been in discussion on expanding more locations, and then COVID came and changed everything. Some of those locations are, and I'll have this conversation with DGS, are really, in my eyes, deplorable conditions. 3939 is just a very dirty building, and it really needs a thorough cleaning, and kind of part of that, too, is one of the reasons with the delay. So a lot of things go on with, especially with this agency, and also want to give a shout out to Dr. Bunley and the Office of African American Male Engagement. Just has been phenomenal, and attend several of his meetings, and has really set a mark. And to have that office within this office, I think is powerful. The Office of Family and Children's Success, I think, is way high up there in one of the offices that is really doing a whole lot of customer service, and I really think that they need a whole lot more money. And I know our city administrator will understands that and will probably help with that as well. I don't know if you would like to comment on your feelings about the office. I'd like to hear what you think, how the office is going, and if they deserve some finances, extra money. Just, it's important that we hear your comments about this office, because it is a strong customer service office that deals directly with people hands-on, and more people are needed, and just need your comments.
Good morning, Budget Chair and council members. Happy to be here this morning, and excited to see Deputy Mayor Leach and other executives within the administration. As you can see, we are very proud of the work we do and the support we provide to vulnerable populations. I am personally excited about the leadership you see before you this morning. And to your question, what I'll say is that as a city, the work we do for our most vulnerable is certainly an indication of our success as a city and our ability to truly move forward. So these offices have my full support and the mayor's full support. That is not at all, to say that we won't be doing our very best to spread the budget wealth in terms of our budget priorities. But thank you for the opportunity to say loudly that I'm very proud of what has already been said this morning in terms of the programs, the services, and the progress that's been made.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's just very important that I think everyone understands the partnerships that this office has with all the other agencies, to get those, they work hand in hand with housing and all those other so deeply that when they go into their training, they really have to understand all of those agencies as well. It's a deep process, and I didn't really learn and know about how deep it was until I became a part of that board. So just really think that they need all the support that they ask for, and then a shout out for all of those offices and for you coming in a short time and picking up where the past person left everything, and she left everything in excellent hands. I know you know that as well. I'll stop there, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. I want to acknowledge Councilman James Torrance, 7th District. Councilwoman McCray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question is going to be for Dr. Bunley. I just want to know how does your office collaborate, if at all, with MONSE?
Thank you for the question, Councilwoman McCray. The mayor has given us a directive, all of our agencies, to work collaboratively. So we collaborate with MONSE in the respect that as Vice President Middleton, so sorry about that. President Middleton stated that up in the Northwest, we have a collaborative work going on right now where we have Safe Streets, the Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement, Park Heights Renaissance, all of those organizations coming together, and the primary focus of the collaborative is to reach out into the community and to deal with violence reduction. So we collaborate with MONSE per directive of the mayor and programmatically through the way I've just explained.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Dr. Bunley, can you drill down on that a little bit more? What is your regular interactions with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement look like? Like, how frequently are you communicating with them?
Right. Well, one of the ways that we do it, I do it indirectly as the director of the Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement, and that I have asked the leadership of We Are Us, which is a movement in the city, the president and the vice president of that movement, to work collaboratively with MONSE on the street. I find myself in the street as well. And so a lot of folk do not know that We Are Us was birthed out of the Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement. And so now it's its own entity. And so that work happens frequently with MONSE. So MONSE is working with We Are Us, which is what we thought was necessary that we birthed because we needed to do action on the ground, but at the same time, I work for the mayor of Baltimore, so it was important that we separated, but yet still encourage them to do that integration.
Regarding We Are Us, and very familiar with the movement and the work that you all do and many of the players that are involved, and understanding that that organization was birthed out of your office in the 2 terms ago, or 2 administrations ago, and also that it is funded through various grants awarded by MONSE. Who is the lead city agency for interacting with and coordinating with We Are Us?
Yeah.
Yep. So the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement manages at least 2 grants to We Are Us that I am familiar with. And then the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success also manages a federal grant that we received from the Department of Justice, and one of the subrecipients is We Are Us.
Thank you for that context. That's very helpful. Is there a lead agency for coordinating with that organization? Because I suspect the nature of those 3 grants, the 2 from MONSE and the 1 from MOCFS, are similar in scope.
They are similar, but there are some differences. So the grant from the grant that we received from DOJ that is operated or managed through MOCFS is actually focused on young people and juveniles, whereas I think the other grants are focused on other aspects that I'm unfamiliar with. But as it relates to there being a lead, it depends on the work that is happening and the grants that we're responsible for. So I work really closely with the We Are Us team as well as the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement. So I would say their main touch points are with our 2 agencies.
Got it. Thank you. Regarding the CAP centers, can you discuss what the agency's long-term plans are to expand that capacity, whether it's actual new CAP centers, satellite centers, other functionality outside of the existing hardscape CAP centers, if you will?
Yep, no, I appreciate that question. So we have been having conversations with the State Department of Social Services for a number of years, and we've renewed those conversations in the time that I've been here. And so one of the things that we're very much interested in as we look to make our CAP centers world-class or first-in-class is that we are leveraging infrastructure that already exists across the city versus building new infrastructure. And so what that looks like is co-location. And so there are so many services, social services that are offered through the Department of Social Services, for example, so receiving your SNAP benefits. And so what we're having conversations with that team about is how can we make our services seamless, right? How can we make sure that our residents are able to go into a DSS facility or a CAP center and receive all of the services that they need in one location? And so what that potentially will look like for us is co-location. And that could be, having CAP center staff that are in DSS buildings, or vice versa, also having DSS staff that are located within CAP centers. Additionally, we're thinking about the same thing as it relates to the Mayor's Office of Employment Development, which is another anchor partner for our CAP centers. In addition, there are all these community-based organizations that are on the ground doing that grassroots work. And so we want to make sure that we are leveraging those partnerships with grassroots organizations that are doing that community-based kind of outreach. And so there will be opportunities for us to also partner with those organizations, have them providing services within CAP centers as well. So the future, I would say, of the CAP centers is less about brand new infrastructure. I think there's an opportunity for us to modernize the services that we deliver as well as the infrastructure, but it is also co-locating with some of our key partners across the city.
Excellent, thank you. And do we have a strategic planning document or something that's in writing in some plan that summarizes what the information that you just shared and what the roadmap is?
Yeah, so we do have a plan. I would have to double check on the co-location piece. I would say those conversations began several years ago. The pandemic happened and we are restarting those conversations. But we've been talking directly to the director at the Department of Social Services as well as their chief of staff about what can we do even in the interim to do some initial co-locations, but I can provide you kind of a plan for our CAP centers.
Excellent. We also have Nate Poole on behalf of Council President Nick Mosby and Natasha Mehew on behalf of Mayor Brandon Scott. Nate and Nina, if we can get that as a request for the committee, is that something you could provide reasonably by the end of this week, by call business Friday?
I can follow up with you to confirm.
Okay, excellent, thank you. Councilman Torrance?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just excited that we're discussing this co-location again. The reason why is because before Ms. Edwards left, the question I had was that
Councilman Mike.
yeah, we don't have a CAP center in West Baltimore. The closest one is in Vice President Middleton's district, and I have a large portion of my population that have transit needs. And one of the close conversations we had was co-locating a facility at Mondawmin or at the Penn North DSS location, because it's essential, because when we were directing people to fill out applications for rental assistance and otherwise, they had to find the nearest center, and it was bus rides to get to the nearest center. My question is related to rental assistance. One of the questions we continually get is whether or not I need a summons in order to actually have my application processed right away. Because some people that we have in our district have said they've been on the list for 9 months, 10 months going on, and we just want to know what the status is, because I understand that there is a backlog, but right now those conversations are hard to have with residents if they're feeling that they may be outside tomorrow.
Yes. No, I appreciate that. I appreciate the question, and I appreciate your interest in co-location. I'm happy to have some conversations offline about things that we can do even in the interim in order to support the residents of West Baltimore until we're able to fully stand up a co-location opportunity there. But to answer your question on rental assistance, I think we all have seen over the past 2 years just the sheer demand and the sheer need. So prior to the pandemic, Baltimore was having a housing crisis. And so since the pandemic, we've seen 1 in 3 residents within our city who are at least behind 2 months on rent. And so that's a large number of our residents that are in need. We have about 52 staff currently who are in our eviction prevention program and who are processing applications and really doing a yeoman's job of supporting our residents. And we've been able to move about $46 million. But to answer the question about what residents need in order for their applications to be processed, so we actually do have kind of a prioritization matrix, if you will. And so if we have a resident who is facing immediate eviction and they do have an eviction notice, then we will prioritize those residents. We also prioritize those residents who are unemployed and or residents who need that immediate assistance and they're under a certain income threshold. And so that's how we've been able to kind of move residents through the list. But if you have an eviction notice, then we will move your application to the top of the process and ensure that we keep you in your home and that we keep you stably housed. To further address the question around just overall capacity and need and processing times, we actually just recently brought on an additional partner. So I mentioned the United Way. So the United Way has received a direct allocation from the state. They moved those funds, I think it was about 16 or 17 million. They are receiving an additional 17 million of our state allocation so that they can continue to process bulk landlord applications. In addition to the United Way, we have also added another processing partner, Guidehouse. And so Guidehouse has managed the rental assistance programs in the state of New York, also Philadelphia, as well as in South Carolina. And so they are going to be processing alongside of us so that we can move money faster and touch more residents. And they are going to be processing about $15 million in direct assistance to tenants. So we do believe that over the next really few months that we are going to see our processing times increase exponentially because we will literally have 3 entities that will be processing rental applications.
As a request, can we get the current status of like the number of persons that are currently waiting processing? I just want to know what that number, the capacity, the number of residents who are waiting their application to be processed.
Councilman, can you just drill down a little more?
I'll drill it down. So the number of residents whose applications are either incomplete, the number of residents whose applications have been processed thus far, and the number of applicants who are currently waiting to be processed. And then I believe you guys have a diversion program, which is in tandem with the sheriff's office.
Councilman, can I go back to the number of applications that have been submitted?
Total applications.
That have been submitted.
Submitted, incomplete applications of that total that have been submitted, the total number that have been processed completely, the number of prioritized ones through the sheriff's diversionary program, and then what the current number is right now, and then what the current balance of our funds are, and the expiration date in which we have to return the money if we don't use it.
Yep.
All right, hang on. Councilman, we got a lot of information there. We're going to get it all.
I can address a few of those now.
Okay, so you'll address what you can, and then we'll go back and we'll make the councilman's request.
Yep.
Okay.
So we have about $52 million left, which is why I mentioned kind of the allocation to the United Way, as well as the money that we'll be processing along with our partner Guidehouse. So we got it's about $52 million. The ERA 1 and ERA 2 dollars that we receive from the federal government, we have to spend by December 31st, 2022, or we could potentially be subject to reallocation. As of today, we have, as of today, we've actually expended about 14 million of the 17 million in our ERA 1 allocation. The remaining balance of the ERA 1 allocation we've dedicated to the Security Deposit Assistance Program. So as we are getting those applications for those who need security deposit assistance, we are drawing down on ERA 1 funds. So that's why we haven't fully depleted all of those dollars. On our ERA 2 allocation, we've spent about, on ERA 2, we've spent about 3 million of the ERA 2 allocation, but we're prioritizing ERA 2 just given the fact that we may be subject to recapture if we don't expend by the end of the year.
Can you repeat the balances on those, please?
Yes. So for ERA 1, we received $17 million. We spent about $14 million. The balance of those funds are dedicated to security deposit assistance. And on the ERA, and on the ERA 2, we've spent 3.8 million. 3.8 million of the 23 million that we received for ERA 2.
So you Mr. Chair, I'm just trying to clarify how much she has left.
So that's why I asked the remaining balance.
Mike.
That's why I asked the remaining balance, Councilwoman, because right now, the way that she's targeted is that she will be on track to spend ERA 2 in 1 by December 22, because of the allocation she made to United Way, and I believe, I forgot the other organization.
So let me back up a little bit. So there are multiple funding sources. So we have there were the coronavirus or the CARES Act funds that we received. We fully allocated all of our CARES Act dollars. So that was the first federal allocation that we received. We then received ERA 1, so the Emergency Rental Assistance 1 program. We received $17 million. We've allocated $14 million. We also have our CDBG CV2 dollars, which are from the state. That's $2 million. We've expended $842,000 of the $2 million. Of the CV1, the CDBG CV1, we received $5 million. We have not drawn down on those funds yet, as we are prioritizing other funding sources. We also received an allocation from the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, about $2.7 million from the trust fund. We use these dollars when we have residents who are ineligible for any number of reasons, but they need assistance. And so right now we have not drawn down on those funds, but we have started to expend them. We just need to properly code them to show that we have drawn down on some of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund dollars. But again, those are the funds of last resort if we cannot support a renter. We also have the additional emergency rental assistance funds from the state, $24 million. We've spent $20 million. And then we received ERA 2, the federal allocation. We received $23 million. We have drawn down $3.8 million to date. We average about $4 million monthly in payments and rental assistance. And that is without the United Way. This is just the CAP Center's processing. So we've received a total of $98 million. We've expended $46 million, which leaves us with approximately $52 million.
Okay, Councilman Torrance, back to your original request.
Yes, so confirming my original request. So
Yes.
total number of applications.
Wait, and go slow, because this is multiple. Yep.
Yep. all right.
First one,
Total number of applications submitted
total, and is there a time frame for that? Or to date?
to date.
To date. Okay, Nate, Nina, we're good with that? Excellent.
Total number of applications that were incomplete.
So that's going to be the universe of that total that were submitted, that sub-universe that
These are all sub-universes that I'm going to read off next. So.
that were incomplete. Nate, Nina, good? Thank you.
Perfect. The total number of actual process applications that we made payments on.
Okay, so that's, of that total universe, those are the ones that have been completed, checked off, payment's been sent out?
Yes.
Okay,
And then-
hang on, Nate, Nina, good? Okay.
And of that universe, how many were the actual diversionary program versus actual processing?
Okay, when you say of that universe, you mean of the ones that were paid?
Completed.
Say, okay, and say it once more, of the universe that were paid,
The universe that were paid, which were paid through the diversionary program and which were paid through their normal processing. So we understand how our prioritization is happening so that we get an understanding like maybe we may have to spend more time at rent court than we need to spend more time in processing applications.
so you want a breakdown of the ones that have been paid by whether or not they either went through the diversionary process or the normal process?
And I just want to explain to the public why I'm asking that, because the persons who are getting summonses, those summonses are on their rental record, so it's going to be hard for them to actually find housing. So I'm trying to figure out, is there a way that we may be able to process faster so that persons aren't actually having a negative impact on their rental history, which means that they in turn will not have access to housing after we pay the assistance.
Yes.
Real quick?
Yes.
Nate, Nina, you got the one about the breakdown, diversionary versus normal? Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Yes. So in response to that, that is really important. So for pandemic rent court, we've supported 380 residents through pandemic rent court. And then the sheriff's office, that diversion program, I want to say it's about 270 individuals that we've supported through that program. Our general prioritization matrix that I mentioned, that is kind of the main way that we process, is we prioritize based off of the things that I mentioned earlier. But to your point about negative impacts to rental history, we do offer relocation services. So not only do we provide that rental assistance, we help individuals who, for whatever reason, need to relocate. And so that's also a part of the package of services that we provide. But I'm happy to get you all the details on those questions that you asked.
No, it's perfect because I'm thinking about legislation about protecting people's rental history in the city because of the pandemic. So the reason why is because I'm finding residents who have gone through diversionary programs or have paid. That's the fact that a landlord can case search and see that they had a judgment and not serve that the judgment was served. They're now negatively impacting their rental history. So they're unable to find housing afterwards, even if they have the security deposit. Because we largely have a large number of our landlords are individual landlords, they're not going to take that risk if they see that in their rental history. So I'm just trying to figure out a way to protect them even further.
Yes, I appreciate that.
But that's it, Mr. Chair. Otherwise than that, I am happy with this office, particularly with Dr. Bunley's office, especially with helping our young men and women who are at Mountain Royal Terrace, as well as Hilton and Liberty Heights. I will say that, like, for the public, this program has helped successfully to remove over 20 youth from those corners, and we've only have a few that come back. So I'm thankful for that and looking forward to another resource fair again, Dr. Bunley, so that we can do it again. But this is important information. I'm thankful for the work of the office as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I appreciate you humoring me as we kind of work through each of those. I just want to make sure we capture everything that you are looking for. One second.
I have a couple more questions, Mr.
Yep.
Chair.
Oh, yep. I gotcha.
Okay.
I gotcha. Yep. Deputy Mayor, we've also been joined by Councilwoman Felicia Porter, 14th District,
No, she's in the 10th.
or 10th District.
She moved.
How often are the and this is a question from Councilman Burnett, how often are the drop boxes emptied at CAP centers? He asks because we have a number of constituents who have dropped off applications and for weeks have not heard anything regarding their utility rental assistance requests. Specifically, he had one constituent who sat at a CAP center for an entire day who reported that the applications were not collected from the drop box. She was told that the boxes are not collected regularly. I always struggle with that word. Given the time-sensitive nature and the delay in processing applications, what is the pickup and processing schedule for those applications that are being submitted via hard copy to the drop boxes at those hard CAP center locations?
Yep. So I appreciate that question. And what I will say is that if our team is not following through on emptying those drop boxes daily, they will post this hearing. So we will move to picking up from the drop boxes
Can you
daily.
repeat that again? I missed.
Yes, I said if our team is not currently emptying those drop boxes daily, we will move to that post this hearing. So I will ensure that we will empty those drop boxes and begin to process those applications immediately.
Thank you very much. And could you please follow up with the committee in writing just to confirm that that directive has been given?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And on, I believe, page 57 in the budget book for Service 741, there appears to be a funding disparity between the 5 various CAP centers. Can you walk through what that disparity is and why it may exist?
Yep. So I can talk generally, and then I can provide some details post the hearing on specifics. But generally, our CAP centers are funded based off of the services that they provide at each of those CAP centers, right? Which is we may have a larger number of individuals that are providing a particular service like eviction prevention or OHEP or water assistance, for example. And so the budget, the funding for those services will kind of be different between them, but I can give you specifics on just any discrepancies between any major kind of shifts in funding between those CAP centers.
Okay, and what would you propose to, specifically, what would you propose to send to the committee post-hearing in terms of that, or?
So what I can send you is a breakdown. So I'll send you a chart that lists all of our 5 CAP centers, what their budget is, what the services are that we provide at those CAP centers, the number of staff that are also located at the CAP centers, because that will also impact the budget as well. And that will help you kind of differentiate why there's funding differences between the CAP centers.
Okay, excellent, thank you. I'm going to jump to Councilwoman Porter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Deputy Mayor Leach. I just want to commend you on your work that we've been doing over in District 10, so I really do appreciate that. This is more of a long-term question. As we are aware, just globally, nationally, we know that an impending recession is coming. Have you all been thinking about like guaranteed income, food strategy for families in Baltimore?
Absolutely. Yes, so I think as many folks on the council are aware, and those in the public are aware, that we actually launched a guaranteed income pilot. So we called it the Baltimore Young Family Success Fund. We had about 3,673 eligible applicants to the program. We will be providing 200 young families between the ages of 18 to 24 with $1,000 in monthly unconditional cash payments for the next 24 months. And so the importance of a program like guaranteed income, especially as we are looking at a pending economic downturn, is that we are able to provide direct cash assistance to those families who need it, and they are able to, with their own agency, make decisions about what is best for their families and how they can support them. And so we're looking at this pilot as a way to evaluate and monitor a poverty alleviation strategy. And so we are really happy with our partners. So the Cash Campaign of Maryland, who does some really incredible economic opportunity work. We have Johns Hopkins, which is also supporting the work as our research partner. And so we'll be able to really evaluate the impacts of guaranteed income on these 200 particular families.
And I definitely appreciate that. And so the pilot would be for 2 years, and then
Yes.
it would be an evaluation after those 2 years?
Yes.
Okay. So let me reframe my question a little bit, because I'm totally grateful for the pilot, but more in the immediate. What are some immediate strategies that you all are implementing or just thinking about in the next, let's say, 6 to 8 to 12 months?
Yes, no, I appreciate that question. So to kind of step back and give a broader picture, we really are looking at our CAP centers as not just processing centers for eviction prevention. Really, they should be kind of the core of the city's poverty alleviation strategy and economic mobility strategy. And so we've actually been having conversations with some partners. We're actually going after a grant from Cities for Financial Empowerment to actually bring some additional financial coaching and other resources directly into our CAP centers. And we're also looking at building out an economic mobility mobility strategy for the city. And so that's going to be an overarching strategy where we're going to really create or have the CAP centers be the core of that work, but we'll be working with MOED and all of our other partners on that economic mobility strategy. And also, you know, to talk about some of the immediate things. So MOED actually already provides some financial coaching, and we've been having conversations with MOED and other partners about providing that service in-house as well. And so as residents fall on hard times and need to make decisions, they may be able to get that direct support when they come to a CAP center. We also are launching a food pantry. So I think one of the questions you asked was about food insecurity. And so this summer, within 2 of our CAP centers, we are actually going to have a food pantry where we're going to be able to have residents sign up who need assistance, and we can provide them food from the pantry that we're housing at our 2 CAP centers.
No, that's actually really great to hear, you know, because as you can imagine, families are reaching out to us, not just our most vulnerable families, but, you know, middle-class families. Yes. that are experiencing these hardships. And, you know, as your office expands in capability and resources, you know, really kind of focusing on not only our most vulnerable families, but our middle-class families. Yes. that often, you know, may or may not qualify for particular programs based on the restrictions of the funding. Mm-hmm. You know, just making sure that we have some sort of pocket for them as well. So yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Whitaker, I just sent an email over to you and copied the deputy mayor per the protocol that we discussed earlier. If you could kindly respond by call of business today to my constituents, I would deeply appreciate it. And please keep me copied on that response, on that thread moving forward. Thank you so much. Council Vice President Middleton. Yes, and then Councilman Stokes, Ramos, McCray.
Just one, I guess, comment question to piggyback on Councilwoman Porter. My eyes lit up when you mentioned about the financial coaching, because I've been really kind of pushing the Baltimore City schools to have, they should literally have financial literacy classes for, at least for 11th and 12th graders with a credit, because our surrounding counties have that. And this is just proof right here that, you know, old families, as they get out of high school, we have families that don't have bank, they don't know anything. Right. They don't know how to go to a bank and do a bank account. I mean, that's how dysfunctional our family system is. And I see Dr. Bunley like shaking his head from, you know, former principal of the school system and so on. It's just a dire need. So I could use your advocacy also to help them to understand that importance. And Prince George's County just donated, or not donated, but acquired $40 million to start a separate financial literacy course requirement within their school system. So I'm hoping that the city school system can get that and can move forward with trying to make that happen. So again, your advocacy would really help with that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Councilman Stokes.
Deputy Mayor, I know my colleague Councilwoman Porter was talking about those families that you're going to be paying. Those families that receive that benefit, if they already receiving some kind of government benefit, do that reduce their government benefit? Because I think it's not clear out there, and a lot of residents might qualify. But if they receiving food stamps or something, that's them receiving that money, I'm sure it reduces their benefit.
Yes.
Can you explain it more in detail?
Yes, and I'm glad that you asked that question, because I would like to make sure that the public is aware. So we actually did apply for waivers at the state level as well as at the federal, so that we could protect individuals who receive funding through our guaranteed income pilot. We wanted to be able to protect their benefits. Unfortunately, we were not able to receive those waivers. So any state and or federal benefits benefits could be potentially impacted. Now, what we did do is we did get a waiver from HABC, and so if you are receiving a housing voucher, that will not be impacted if you are receiving direct funding from the Guaranteed Income Pilot.
And my follow-up on that, once that 2 years expire for them, do they lose their benefits? They can't go back to their full benefits. That's my concern. If once they pay out whatever you're paying them for them 2 years, my concern is they won't be able to get that benefit back that was reduced because of the other money they received.
So again, this is why Cash Campaign is such an incredible partner, because they do this work day in and day out. And so given some of the concerns around benefits, we actually are doing benefits counseling and coaching throughout the process. And so Cash Campaign of Maryland has a benefits dashboard. They're sitting down with individual counselors. So once they kind of identify the 200 individuals, and if they receive benefits, they can do one-on-one coaching around each of their benefits, and that's going to happen throughout the 2-year process.
Well, my question is, I understand the support there, but do you have any record of, right now, I know it's too soon, but my question still is, even if they get in that kind of one-on-one with Cash Campaign, my concern is when it's over, are we going to monitor that? Because a lot of times you had to get a waiver from HABC, because if they did, the rent would have went up.
Right.
And then the governor vetoed the waiver. My concern is once this is over with, how do we know those same people now just lost their benefit and cannot get it back? Because if the governor waived the waiver, that's state. Is they going to now say, well, you got that benefit, you can't get this benefit any longer because you've been getting something else for 2 years. So I know it's too early, but that was my concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Ramos.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have a lot more questions, but I'll stick to the CAP centers for right now. I had introduced a study and report last year that we didn't end up moving forward on because of the transition at Mocfs, but I will be asking your help on it. The state years ago created a two-generation approach with the CAP centers across the state, where when someone comes in for aid, the entire family gets an analysis of everything else that they need, and then there's help to get them there. So for instance, if someone is coming in for help to pay the BGE, you know they got other stuff that they need help with, and so does grandma, and so does junior, and so does et cetera, et cetera. So I came to that from my previous work, but also we're still trying to get more elders signed up for the homeowners property tax credit. And so what I was wondering is, in the strategic plan that you were just talking about, as you think through the work moving forward, are the CAP centers, is the CAP program going to move into this two-generation approach? And as you mentioned co-locating, one of the other things about it is that in an ideal world and in other cities and states, it's not just limited to CAP centers. So for instance, someone, let's say, has developmental disabilities and they're getting an IEP, then the school system can say, well, wait a second, what else is going on in the house, in the family, that they may need to be able to support the child, right? So not that the benefits are given at the school system, but the school system has a referral. So it's all very interconnected to make sure that the families are getting everything that's available to them. And so I'm wondering if so I had put the study and report in to try to get a report around how Mocfs is going to move in that direction, because I think it's critical. Again, another example, I have a constituent who is older, and she takes care of her grandchild that has developmental disabilities. So, but I had to sit there with her to fill out the application for the homeowner's tax credit, and also get her all kinds of other things. And so if we can support the entire family and not just one piece of it, that I think helps the entire family move in the direction that they need to move. So just if you could comment on moving in that direction, that would be helpful.
Yes, absolutely. So we are definitely in the process of moving towards this more kind of two-gen approach when it comes to the work that we offer. What I will say is if you even look at some of our performance measures, we've kind of moved from the deep case management, but we are moving back there. So it has been all hands on deck when it comes to rental assistance and when it comes to the needs that arose from this pandemic. But deep case management is where this two-gen kind of work will show up. And that is where the CAP Center is moving back to, is ensuring that we are doing that case management that looks at the entire family. And so we are doing it, I will say, on a case-by-case basis. And so when my opening remarks, I mentioned the one young woman who sent us our prom picture. Well, she reached out to me, I sent it to Angela, but then she followed up and said, are there other things that you can help my mom and I with? And so we were very intentional about supporting that young woman because she was speaking on behalf of her entire family, and she was a senior in high school, for example. And so we know that we are gonna really have to intensify the resources and the services that we provide through that case management. Is gonna take a lot of time, I would say, because that two-gen work does take a lot of intentionality, I would say, but that is definitely where the CAP Center is moving, is supporting the entire family. And for the point about the school system, Director Millard talked about this earlier in the community schools work that he is doing. And the partnership that we have is really an incredible partnership. I do think that there is an opportunity for us to deepen that engagement and that partnership, especially as it relates to the services that are provided through our community action partnership centers. But there is an opportunity through our community school coordinators for us to really do more of that linkage. We do it, and we are doing it more, I would say, in the homeless services space, where we're coordinating and directly assisting those students identified by McKinney-Vento or through those programs. We're assisting those families, and it's not just MOHS, it's also through our CAP centers as well. So it's happening. It's just not happening, I would say, at the level where we need it to happen as a city, but that is definitely the direction that we're moving in.
Well, it also is going to take information sharing, which I know
absolutely.
the bill that was passed in Annapolis was helping with that, plus the governor, I don't agree with him on everything, but this is a good thing that he did, was the making sure that the state agencies were sharing data, because it's going to take that sharing data approach, because everybody's got to have the same data about what's happening with the family.
Agreed.
So Baltimore's Promise is in that, all of that. So I'm glad to hear that you're moving in that direction. I guess my vision is just a little larger, because we're talking about, expanding where CAP centers are, and it's important to have people to be able to walk in somewhere, but there's a lot of people that are already in a space where they're getting help. And so there's also this technology to be able to help a school social worker to go in and help people register for benefits, right? So it's actually a lot broader is what I'm thinking about. So I look forward to continuing the conversation with you about that.
Absolutely.
My second question is, and I have to say I didn't write to you before this and to tell you about this, and I'm sorry about that, but several of our Spanish speakers have not had good experiences in the CAP centers. So we need to make sure that we have people who speak Spanish in the CAP centers, but actually it's been more than that. It's been a cultural problem where some of our CAP center workers are just don't, I can't even describe it. We're not very sensitive to, our Spanish speakers are undocumented. And that's frustrating, because obviously we're a welcoming city. We want to provide people with everything that they need. If there's feelings of certain populations not deserving certain benefits, then that's a problem. So I'm wondering if you've heard that before, and also what are the training that you're doing, making sure that we also have Spanish speakers that are in, and also Latinos themselves hired in your facilities, so that those kinds of things don't happen.
No, absolutely. So I actually have heard that. So our director of the mayor's office of immigrant affairs did talk to me about some concerns or raise some concerns around the Latinx population and their experience at our CAP centers and with our eviction prevention program. And so what I will say is, one, we want everyone to feel welcome in our CAP centers. Anyone, no matter your background, no matter your circumstance, most folks are coming to us because this is, one of the lowest points for them. And so we want everyone to feel welcome in our centers. And so I will definitely address this with staff, the concern around the Latinx population not necessarily feeling comfortable in our CAP centers. We have really deep relationships and partnerships with Latinx serving organizations. And so, everyone talks about the incredible work of CASA, for example. And we've worked hand in hand with CASA in order to provide that outreach and engagement and ensure that the Latinx population is familiar with the services that we provide. We are in the process, and we have hired Spanish speakers in our CAP centers as well as on our phone lines. We've done a full translation of our website as well. So you can go on our website and it's translated into multiple different languages. And so I think that there is an opportunity for us to do even more to ensure that our CAP centers are welcoming spaces, even maybe bringing in some of those community-based organizations into the CAP centers, right? Instead of just having them be our outreach arm on the ground. And so I'm happy to have some conversations with you, as well as the Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs, and as well as some of our partners about just some strategies that we can employ immediately to ensure that our Spanish speakers are getting what they need.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I have a couple more questions, but I'll wait till next round. Thanks.
Council Vice President just have a comment, and then Councilwoman Councilman Correa, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick comment. I had an opportunity to visit San Diego's setup of best practices for a one-stop place for everything, down to getting your ID card, or for veterans. I mean, a person that needs services can go in this one place and get every single service within that one day. That's how they have really set up their system. So I just want to put that out there. It's a place where you need to visit. It's unbelievable how they have that set up. Of course, brand new facility, huge, all one level. A person has a number and they get everything taken care of at that one. If it's a problem with a family needing WIC, every service, they have it down to the T. And every chance I get, I try to advertise that it would be a great place, but it's right in the city of San Diego. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Chair.
Councilwoman Porter.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
You're fine. So on page 56, I noticed some of your performance measures are just basically quantity-based. Can you speak to how you're kind of elevating the office and more to a quality-based model? One of the things that I know we've been kind of working on at the council is kind of like getting past the counting, the bean counting of, simply applications, but really having or implementing performance measures on our agencies about elevating the quality of life of our residents in the city.
Yes, that's a fantastic question. So a lot of our work, of course, is of course output based. Everyone wants to know the number of applications processed, how much money we've moved. But I think there's also that hidden story, right, of how many families were able to stay in their homes, or the kind of the economic mobility, or folks that are moved along a kind of career pathway or an economic pathway, given some of the work that we've done. So as I talked about us moving from kind of just that output and just processing, which is a lot of the work that we're doing now, and it is very necessary work. I would say the next phase of the work of our CAP centers is really more of that outcome-based work. And so it is the economic mobility work. It is tracking, where a person starts when they come to the CAP center and where they end up, 2 to 3 years from now. And so it's going to take a lot of focus from our team, especially our data folks, to really help us build out what are those right metrics to really be able to monitor and monitor people's economic mobility, if you will.
And I appreciate that. And the only reason why I elevate that just for, the body and the general public is that you all do a lot of
Yes.
good work. And I want to make sure that the general public and the citizens of Baltimore really understand how you all are elevating the quality of life. But more importantly, when you go and apply for those larger funding mechanisms, having that qualitative data is going to be very important to kind of sharing just how impactful you all are to the citizens of Baltimore. And then more importantly, as we approach budget season years from now, we'll be able to not necessarily just have the bean counting metrics, we'll be able to really quantify how you all are spending the money, but how impactful those dollars are to the citizens of Baltimore. And I know CAO Shorter, we've talked about this on a number of occasions. I know you have some things in the pot, but I just want to put that out there that, for you all to start thinking from a data perspective, not just a quantity base, but a quality base, so that we're really telling the story about what we're doing in the city of Baltimore and how we haven't seen this level of economic investment ever. Well, not ever, but in a long time. So, thank you.
Thank you. Real quick, Deputy Mayor, I want to just mention that PNC Bank, I work with them. They have a mobile unit, and they do a lot of visiting in the 12th district. So I will be glad to give you that contact, because when you talk about those families that you service, maybe they can have that mobile unit right in some of the 5 CAP centers.
Yes.
So they can get it all at the same time.
Thank you for that.
Any other questions? Councilwoman, how many more questions you have? 2. Okay, because we can wrap this up once that's done. Thank you. It's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had 2 more questions. I don't see, maybe I missed it, any indicators in the budget book around the Office of African American Male Engagement. Can we maybe get that for next year, or even short term? Like, what are your outcomes that you're seeking in terms of not just people served, but also, obviously, what are those successes? It's not in the budget book.
We will.
Okay, can I get that as a request, Nina and Nate, for the outcomes for the and performance measures for
Councilwoman, is that a request?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking for.
I know, but I'm chairing the meeting. Nate, Nina, could that be a request, please?
Yes, I can repeat it. The outcomes and performance measures for the Office of the African American Male Engagement. I know you're doing great work. I'd love to shine the light on it. So thank you. And then my second question is, Deputy Mayor, can you talk a little bit about Guidehouse that you just brought up? I know that the relationship, this is back to rental assistance. I know the relationship with MOCFS and United Way is for the bulk payments to the property owners that have multiple units. So is Guidehouse kind of the same, or you're just bringing them in for added capacity? And who are they and what do they do? I've not heard of them.
Yeah, so we are bringing them on for added capacity. So they actually, we were introduced to the work of Guidehouse through our recovery office. So they actually were providing some pro bono assistance around policy changes as it related to eviction prevention. And then from there, we learned that they actually ran programs in.
Are they a nonprofit? Are they for-profit?
No, they are for-profit. They're a consultant.
And are they from Baltimore? Do we have?
They are not Baltimore-based, no.
Okay.
And so other jurisdictions, unlike Baltimore, other jurisdictions actually outsourced their eviction prevention program. So the state of New York outsourced their program, Philadelphia and others. And so Guidehouse is one of the main kind of consultants that provide that additional capacity or support and actually run programs. So they provide assistance around just interpreting policy and guidance, which we all know shifted throughout the pandemic, but then they also process applications. So they were able to quickly stand up a processing center alongside of our community action partnership centers.
So they've added another center, if you will, or
So-
they're just more people?
It's more people. So they added, I want to say it's about 14 additional processing staff, and they're processing $15 million worth of assistance.
So you're giving them 15 million worth of assistance, or, sorry, wrong word. So they are processing $15 million worth of assistance.
Yes.
And the city is then paying them for this service?
Yeah,
How
so
is that
we are
working?
paying them, I want to say about 1.5 million to hire staff, to process applications, and then they're also providing trainings and technical assistance to our team.
Okay, yeah, I had not, I know that many of our jurisdictions, even in Maryland, outsourced
Yes, ma'am.
the whole thing, and we kept it in-house because we felt like we had capacity. Just wasn't aware of Guidehouse, so I'll just Google them and see. But it sounds like so the 15 million that they're processing, again, it's based on just, it's not the bulk payments,
No.
it's just more people to process these applications that
Yes.
we've just been talking
Yeah,
about.
and to Councilmember Torrance's point, they're starting with the applications that are in the backlog.
Okay, so they're just starting this work with you?
Yes, so we brought them on board, I want to say about 3 weeks ago, and so the past 3 weeks have been onboarding. They've been reviewing our technology systems, we've been getting them access, they've planned a training with our staff, and so today, I believe, is when they will actually start processing applications.
So I'm curious, and I understand you had to get capacity. We have so many organizations, and I know with Spanish speakers, we're actually working with 4 organizations to process applications for our Latino population. Is that, so we decided to go with an entity that, you know, other jurisdictions are already know because they already have the system stood up, and not just trying to start new with other CBOs in the community. Is that the calculation?
Absolutely, and we will continue to work with those community-based organizations as we have been. I think with the deciding to go this route is because we've seen them manage and quickly stand up a program. And just given kind of the number of applications that we know are out there, we're still receiving 100+ applications a day for rental assistance.
For sure.
And we know that this money has to be expended, or it will be subject to recapture by the end of this fiscal year. And so we decided to go with a known quantity, a known entity that has expended all of the funds in the state of New York and other jurisdictions, because we knew that they could stand up a program and move it very quickly.
So was there sort of like an emergency?
It was emergency.
Yeah, I was figuring that because we've had other issues with procurement this
Yeah,
budget.
it was definitely an emergency.
So you just wanted to make sure that you could quickly get capacity up and running. Okay, I just wanted to understand this a little bit better, so thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Dr. Bundy, you want to say something?
I just wanted to apologize to Madam Vice President for bungling her name, but I realize COVID confusion is real because she does a lot of work with the Mayor's Office of African American Male Engagement, but she walked out, so I just wanted to say that.
So we, I guess we're gonna put, first of all, I want to thank everybody, thank the Mayor's Office of Family and Children's Success, the CAP centers, Family Lead. You're doing a wonderful job, especially getting those services out there, but getting that money out, that need out there pretty fast. So thank you for the great work that you do. There's committees in recess, and we will go to 11 o'clock will be the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services.